The players all meeting in a tavern at the start of an adventure is a hackneyed experience, and one we've all probably had one too many times. But what if we could take that preconception, that mundanity, and twist it into a session that is filled with tension and horror? As part of Dungeon Jam, I've created a 5-room dungeon that acts as the introductory session to a new campaign. This session involves cultists and dark rituals and human sacrifices, and hopes to bind the characters together through that shared harrowing experience, and give you a villain you can use in a recurring manner for the remainder of your campaign. Hi, I'm Peter, creator and lead designer of Tales from Elsewhere, and I've been playing tabletop role-playing games for going on 25 years now, and on this YouTube channel, we go into game design principles and philosophy, examining the structures that go into our favorite tabletop role-playing games. It's also the place where I talk about my tabletop role-playing game called Tales from Elsewhere. The first setting book is called Clockworld and is post-apocalyptic Weird West, and it acts as the backdrop for today's 5-room dungeon, but I'll also be providing information on how to convert this to any D&D campaign or other heroic fantasy. A 5-room dungeon is a structure for constructing a sequence of events, for building out a literal dungeon or even a roleplay sequence. It acts as a guideline to give you a natural beginning, middle, and end, and help you stay on track to keep the pace moving through any session. The first room in a 5-room dungeon is usually the entrance, or guardians, and this is something that's a fight to set the precedent, set the tone of what's to come through the rest of the session. And this is your classic animated statues at the entrance, or the bandits guarding their hideout. It's often just a fight that sets the player's expectations of what's to follow. The second room is the RP or puzzle room, and this would be some sort of skill challenge or puzzle or riddle that mixes up what is otherwise a lot of combat within the 5-room dungeon. And this can take many forms. There could be a neutral NPC you need to convince, or maybe there's a sphinx you have to answer the riddle for. This is very malleable and can take a lot of different forms, but the key is it's not supposed to be a fight. The third room is the Setback room, where some sort of complication can get added. Now this can involve a fight, but it should involve some sort of player choice, where if things go wrong, it's going to change the rest of the rhythm of the dungeon. This could involve things like shortcuts, or passageways being blocked off, or stealth sections where if they get discovered, there's going to be more fights. It's something to complicate the sequence in some way. The fourth room is the Climax, or boss battle room, and this would be the main event of your 5-room dungeon. This is where they'll get to fight the big boss, or have a big battle with lots of enemies, a place for the characters to show off and really hit that high point of your session. The fifth and final room in the 5-room dungeon is the reward or twist or revelation room, and this is where the session can hook into further content. You could either just give them a reward and call it quits, or you can have some sort of twist or new revelation that they find out after the climax that will entice the players to keep following this storyline after the session is done. So not only do the rooms not need to be rooms, they don't even need to be in that order every time. For example, in the adventure I'm about to pitch, I don't have a literal room for each of these beats, but instead they represent discrete moments in the adventure that follow that sequence roughly. So without further ado, let's hop into the Feast of Mayjune. Every year, the Church of Ashes hosts a grand revelry across the Ruination, the Feast of Mayjune. This is to celebrate the human spirit, that the fire of humanity will not be so easily quenched in these dark times. And to do so, they provide food and drink and celebration and great bonfires in towns across the land. And it's for this celebration that the players have come together. They've come to Estancia Quemada, a remote frontier town, to meet one of 3 NPCs that they choose before the session. They can choose Muriel Quartermain, who is a local fancy lady and woman who's well-traveled across the lands. They can meet the local sheriff, Sheriff Dodes, who has a sordid past in banditry. Or they can meet Pleasance Alvarez, a tinkerer who likes to be left alone to perform all of her necessary experiments here on the frontier. By having each player connect themselves to one of these 3 inhabitants of Estancia Quemada, they have a reason to be there, and if 2 of them have that same NPC, it's already a connection point they can have. This is just to plug them in directly to the story right away. And now, those names and locations all sound very Weird West, and that's because they take place in Clockworld, my post-apocalyptic Weird West setting, but it's really easy to just swap the names out and locations for anywhere in your homebrew fantasy world or in the Forgotten Realms or Greyhawk. So the adventure starts in that classic way. All the players meet at the local tavern. They're all having a blast and partying. You can have them introduce themselves. You can have them play poker in character or any other sort of fun little mini game that you want to insert into your story. It should be silly and fun and fairly lighthearted at the start. But you see, the players have already entered the dungeon now. They just don't know it yet. The first room of the dungeon, I've made the puzzle or RP room, and the players are already there. The players all wake up the next day with the worst hangover of their lives, even if they weren't drinking the night before. Something is wrong. They've slept to almost noon and are scattered about the town, waking up in easy-to-miss places, underneath a wagon, in the jail cell, in a wine cellar. And they wake up alone. And so begins the 5-room dungeon. This first sequence is where the players will have to explore the oddly abandoned town. Not a sign of life anywhere. The bonfire's gone out. There's not a sign of anyone. So they'll use their skills, both in character and real life, to start looking around to see where did everybody go. All the horses are still in the stables. There's no one in any of the rooms of the saloon. All the shops are abandoned. What happened? Their investigations lead them toward the lonely church on the hill in town, where they hear the soft sounds of prayer. And now they've hit the second room of the dungeon, the Guardians. They'll see all sorts of wagon tracks and a bunch of carts and wagons abandoned beside the church. Inside, strange prayers are being uttered and chanting that they've never heard before. Going inside, and they find cultists worshipping strange growths that are emerging from the sides of the church. But these appear to just be the people from the town, a handful of them sitting in the pews and chanting odd prayers. But very quickly they'll realize that some of these people aren't only just cultists, some of them have been transformed into eldritch horrors. A fight breaks out, and the players will likely win, but it'll start to reveal that there's something horrific going on, especially when they go and see the hatches that lead beneath the church. The setback or complication room is the tunnels underneath the church. As they explore it, they'll see that there are chained up townsfolk prepared for sacrifice in these dark tunnels. The players will need to use their skills to sneakily start freeing them without warning the other cultists underneath. And if they don't do this sneakily, they're in for a fight on their hands that they maybe weren't ready for. In this setback sequence where the players may be sneaking through the tunnels, they can find clues as to what's going on. They'll find the townsfolk's abandoned clothes and whether they're being changed into cultist clothing or sacrifice clothing. They can find evidence of the research and rituals going on, and clues as to who's behind it all. Among the captured townsfolk prepared for sacrifice is Sheriff Dodds, that wants to help the players free these captives and get them back to the surface, so he can help usher them up to the top and see them to safety. They will inevitably come into conflict with the cultists themselves, which leads into the 4th room, which is the climactic fight over the ritual. For the cultists have been summoning an entity into our world, some horrible monster that's causing growths to appear all throughout the tunnels and in the town that can unleash monsters from elsewhere, the dark realm of madness and horror in my setting, but you can also just use something like the Far Realm from D&D. They'll see that it was Muriel Quartermain who has been performing these sacrifices, one of the NPCs they were there to hang out with. So the players can defeat her and try to push some boulders down onto the ritual space, or use the ritual research that they found in the previous room to put a stop to things, or maybe they found some dynamite or have it on their person to blow the whole place up. Regardless, it should be a big, chaotic, bloody mess trying to save these townsfolk and stop the dark ritual. Now, for the 5th room in the dungeon, you could either go with the uplifting reward or the sinister twist. The reward would be the townsfolk are eternally grateful for you having saved them, and they shower you with reward. Or you can use the twist I've built in. You see, in the tunnels is evidence of somebody being a shapeshifter, all sorts of different clothes and identities being amassed in one of the rooms. And the players, during their fight in the ritual room, room 4, could have discovered the already sacrificed corpse of Sheriff Dodds, the person they just freed a few minutes ago and went up to the surface. This can segue into a additional plot line where the players try to hunt down whatever shapeshifter that was that escaped, the real person behind these rituals. Regardless of whether or not you go with a reward or a twist here, the players are now bound together through this experience. They were drawn into this inadvertently and saved the day, and the town will be grateful to them regardless. They can have a motivation to help rebuild the town or protect it while the townsfolk recover from their losses, or they can go hunt down this shapeshifter and see what this was all really about. I've provided in the adventure a number of little inspirational segues into further adventure that you can use, because this is just meant to start off whatever campaign you may have had planned in the long form. And that's a 5-room dungeon. It's designed for level 1 or introductory characters, but it's meant to be fairly brutal and difficult and harrowing. So definitely adjust the difficulty as you need for your session, because I like somewhat of a brutal experience, but that may not be everybody's taste. If you'd like to try out this adventure, and maybe even try it in the Tales from Elsewhere rules, there's a link down below to the website where you can download your free copies, including high-res VTT-ready maps. And as I said at the start, this is part of Dungeon Jam. If you want to get access to so many different awesome dungeons, there's going to be a link to the playlist down below. So no matter what you need on game night, if you weren't ready for that session and need to throw together a really quick dungeon, tons of talented content creators have just loaded up this playlist with awesome stuff. So link down below, definitely check that out. And if you enjoyed this video, consider liking and subscribing. Every week we release a new video on tabletop gameplay design and principles. So I hope to see you next week here on Tales from Elsewhere.